start streaming. We have started the stream. Look at my beautiful stream. We have a face, we have a keyboard, we have a whatever the fuck I want. Let's see. YouTube says we're live. Look at that. Let's copy the video URL. Announcements. Let's steal Soding's red circle. Live on YouTube. Look at that. We're Soding now. Picking Hibiku back up. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Oh boy, I hope that looks fine. There's our link and stream notifications. Bonk. Good to go. I really, really need to get a new goddamn. I wonder why this one didn't get the thing. Strange announcements. Very strange indeed. Very strange indeed. Are we that far behind? Wait a second. Maybe if I... Hello. I am curious. Maybe if I don't set it to ultra low latency, which it currently is, then it will be better. If I end the stream and restart it on a slightly higher latency, maybe it will tell me, because what I'm looking at right now, right? This big thing, which people last time said was not a problem. Worst case, I mean, I'm going to stop watching. It looks like it's like a minute behind sometimes. I'm not counting, but maybe this ultra low latency. You should probably not be on my stream settings. Don't hit the button there. Look at stream health. Yeah, this thing, and the ultra low latency here. Maybe if I switch it back to low latency and not this, it will look better. Let me know if things look buffered and bad. If they look fine, we'll stick to it. What are those? Not thongs. Stream is very far behind. Yeah, I don't know why. I might stop it real quick and see what's going on. The other thing that might be going on is I'm also recording, experimenting with just having a VOD I can upload that I don't have to grab from YouTube or use YouTube's tools for. So maybe just the act of recording is causing issues, but like it's network related. And all of the video encoding and the stuff that I'm seeing on stream looks fine. So maybe I don't record like that. Maybe I just actually look at what tools YouTube gives me for VODs. Maybe it's buffering a bit, yeah. Let's start with, okay, I'm gonna stop recording, see if it fixes itself then. No recording, not the recording. Those are not, anyway, so, okay, what about now? Hopefully it's the same link too, because I haven't changed anything here. Stream status, excellent. Stream is healthy. Said no data, that's when it stopped. Stream is healthy now. Ultra low latency looks fine. If I move this anywhere else, how quickly does that show up on stream over here? Like 10 seconds if I had to guess. Maybe restart the stream with the previous settings because I can't even get back in and it's hanging most of the time. It just restarted. Trying it again. Okay. It hasn't told me that it's died just yet. Much better. Okay. I turned the bitrate to output. I turned it down 2000 to 6000 kilobytes per second and set it to medium quality. And then I also set it to run at 30 FPS instead of 60. We're not doing anything that requires 60 FPS. I can hear and see things. It just ticked over to poor. As soon as I said, oh, look, it's great, it ticked over to poor. Let me know if it still looks like shit. I'm going to pause my own stream and hope that that fixes the problem. I've been having some Wi-Fi hiccups today that I thought were resolved. Maybe I kill the stream and restart my Wi-Fi, but I think one of my friends might be in a game right now, so I have to ask him. Let me know how it looks. I'm going to poke around with things later today regardless. And hope for the best, I guess. It's much better and isn't hanging itself. Okay, I'll keep an eye on it. I'll keep an eye on chat. You guys let me know. We're going to get rid of this. We're going to get rid of this. We're going to put the waifu in the back of the screen. And, all right. Hibiku time. Been a few weeks. I don't know exactly how many weeks. Beginning of this month, I think. So I added a new to-do up here at the top. And let me know if the font looks good. I've got it at like 10 ticks above default, and I'm going to try to stick to it. We need to rename pool to arena because I just called it the wrong thing for every time that we were looking at it. It's an arena allocator, not a pool allocator, and nobody caught that. I didn't catch that. That's step one to fix. We're probably not going to go back into the Lexer just yet. We might want to actually implement HBK assert sometime soon because we're going to get into more complicated parser stuff, so we can test that. And maybe want to do this. But what I remember is we left off in the middle of parsing and potentially printing those things as well. So we had the grammar open. This is Saraid's grammar. This is our grammar that we were working on implementing. And I know somewhere in here, do we have a parser? We just had syntax. Are you going to create result type again? In this parser, I don't think so. The reason I have the result type in Laye is because the parser requires a significant amount of backtracking. In Hibiku, we're minimizing that as much as possible and trying to not do that. I can't think of another way to put it. So we shouldn't need as complicated thing as a half monadic result type. We can just return a node and move on, and all of the error information will be stored in the context. If a node is invalid, it can just store a list of tokens that were invalid. We'll probably end up doing error recovery pretty soon, and we can just have a syntax node for unknown and treat it like an expression or a statement or something in the AST. But yeah, no, I don't think the parser is going to require something as complicated as Laye's result type. Okay, so I need to refamiliarize myself with what this file is for. Is this also, it is the parser. Okay. We're doing all of our forward declares up here. We've got a function to get a syntax kind to a C string. We've got parser, advance, peak. Peak is good. Peak token. Okay, we're pre-lexing all the tokens. I do remember doing that. That's good. Parser, peak, peak, parser, peak. Cool. Okay, so let's start at the very top here with the renaming of pool to arena. Let me also just check on where we're at. I modified to do and nothing else to probably just add this one line here like it says. We can go straight into wherever the hell I define the probably just in hibiku.h has the allocator. There's no pool here. Did I actually already rename it on stream somewhere and just didn't realize it? Strings, diagnostics, diagnostic, We don't have a memory. HBK IR VM hibiku.ch HBK lex hash map syntax vector internal .h has HBK pool. Okay, so HBK pool needs to become arena, and everywhere that we use the term HBK pool, arena, that has a B in it. We don't like that. Arena and arena. Okay, and then the parameter I don't think is going to go through the declaration A. That's just going to be in both declarations. That's fine. If I go into here, we just want to rename this to arena in here, 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 here. I believe all of those places. Arena alloc here. I am using rename symbol, but this symbol is across two declarations. We rename symbol on here, but this I'm looking at, it's doing a rename symbol and also finding similar symbols, and I'm looking at the list of similar symbols right now. These, I could make the UI even bigger so you can see all the list of symbols that I'm looking at, but it is doing a full refactor on multiple different symbols. So at this case, we're gonna have to rename pool block as well, but all of these are referencing a pool, which should be an arena. I'm just gonna apply that. And we're still looking for a few more instances of pool. This one is an internal function. This one is an internal macro. Arena, I don't think the macros like to fix themselves up all nice. Pool, add block. Arena, add block. HPK arena block capacity here. Yeah, so the actual definition didn't get updated. Pool, block. Arena block, arena block, arena block. Okay. No pool here. Okay, that's in to do, that's fine. Now we've got a bunch of things in the syntax here. So I'm just going to go to syntax.c, and it looks like everywhere that we use the term pool can just become arena. It's not a key combo that exists in VS Code. Everywhere that it exists, ooh, it doesn't like something here. Tree, arena, okay, so we need to go into the syntax tree. Everywhere that we have pool should be arena. Okay, so then we're just in hibiku.c. Everywhere that we have pool should become arena. Save. And then I think we're good. Let's get rid of that. Come back over here. I think we just have a make file for this. If I just type make, we get stuff. Not handled. Cool. So if I do a make clean, I think I implemented clean. I did. So I can just make again. We get a full thing. So we can go fix a couple of warnings to make our life easier, and then we're good to go on the parser. Do I have water? I do. Oh. Something is making squeaky sounds. I can't tell if it's my desk, the things on the side of my desk, or my guitar. Okay, that's fine. Stream health, it's not, it just stopped squeaking and then it started when I looked away. It's definitely my guitar. I brought my guitar out to test adding it to OBS and see how it picks up between my mic and the actual recording stuff, and I've just left it by my desk and it's squeaking now. So that's not good. I had water. I'm actually already out of water. We might have to take a quick break soon to get water. Okay. So warnings, we need syntax.c for all of them. We're looking at 409 for all of them. So syntax.c 409, this one. Which syntax type print to string? We could be pretty explicit about this, but I'm just going to say case, or not case, default break we just, for the time being, are going to do the exact same thing we did with invalid and just call it unknown. And we can give it the kind to string for syntax kind, type kind, like that. We don't even really need to call it unknown, but I think we will just to be explicit, unknown type, even. So then if we come over here and make, we have no warnings, we're good to go. So if I get s, we're just going to say git add everything, git commit, rename. I don't remember if I was, hold on, git log and token. We weren't doing like anything fancy with our logs at the moment. Refactor tool to arena. That's actually. Okay, I believe we are already still connected and authenticated and nothing's wrong. Great. One more make, nothing to be done for all. Cool. So now we want to do parsing. What do we have in here? We have a test and examples. We have examples, we don't have tests. So ls examples, we just have hello. Okay, so then if we were to do Hibiku examples, yeah, that, we would get some things. So we've done variable declarations. I think we left off starting function declarations. So HBK parse decl, we didn't implement decl function yet. That's still missing. So we may have gone down the expression route and we've done a handful of expressions. I think we should go ahead and get functions out of the way. So if we go into parse, let's start with parse decl. I'm going to put the do I have an HBK to do? I have token stuff. I do have a to do. Just put the function name here. I don't think it's going to hit anything because it's implemented in terms of assert, and assert just does nothing. So maybe this is a time to quickly implement a HBK assert and then get on to parsing functions. So let's do that real quick. We want to probably just implement this as a function that we can start customizing. I mean, easiest thing we could do is just fprintf standard error. The string version of the condition would have to be in the message, right? So we would also have an exit one or something. If this at least works, then we can clean it up later, make it an actual function. So I'd want to do like probably the failure message first. So assert failed something. And then do we want the source text first or the message first? We could do this, new line, and then the message and a new line. I don't remember what fancy assert formats look like, but they're always kind of hard to read. So we can assert the condition, new line, the message, and then we would just do what? Is it just condition and message? Is that all we have to do? So if I come in here to syntax, we've got an HBK to do, which means somewhere up here. Export. There's an assert to say a function is not implemented. So we can also go ahead and say case HBK function. As soon as we hit the function, we're just going to say, let's see. So interestingly, we have put parsing because I think we have local and export plus no keyword, but function always starts at the keyword function. So we can really just immediately return HBK parse function without having to worry about it. And then there's an export token being taken in there. That's the declaration token. So the export token might just be empty or invalid or null. It's not a pointer. So like if we hit export here, we're passing in token, right? That becomes our export token. And the reason we're bringing in the token is so we can determine if it's exported or other attributes. This might turn into an array of attributes in the future when we maybe decide some other things can go, right? Because we have attributes plus export. Actually, that's right. We said most attributes would just be const. Interesting. We did introduce the kind of const. So export or local is the identifier type. For functions, export is just a flag. So we will be doing attributes. They will be an array, but we're keeping them separate from the export declaration, the export keyword. Does the mic still sound good, by the way? I tweaked some volume settings slightly, but I think they're basically the same. I just forgot to ask at the start because of the other stream issues. Okay, so in syntax, decal function with a token, decal function with no token can just be HBK token of 0. That, I guess. So then when we hit this, it's going to say HB blah 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 to do. So then we want to go into hello Hibiku and do like function main, and it'll fail the parse right there. But this can be, I mean, we've got a foobar and baz here, right? Yeah, it's fine. That's good. Thank you. Now let's just make a main. And first off, make, we didn't do anything. So then Hibiku examples. Assert failed. State is not equal to null. Buy more RAM. Whoa. That's not what I assert, or that's not what I assumed we would hit. But it did work. Why did we hit that? We need line and column information pretty bad. So I think that's already a sign we should wrap this up and do some extra fancy logic. So let's define a function called HBK. What do we want to call it? Like assert message handler, something. I mean, start with that and work our way up. So we need the string form of the condition. We need file. We need line. We need the message. And that should be it. I could just call it lowercase assert, but that would make it even. Does it need to be flexible enough to handle things other than the general assert or to do or unreachable? Because we could HBK assert here. All of these could come back to like, because we might want to have an HBK ice that doesn't say assert, right? So we might want an internal error callback, kind of HBK internal error. So then a to-do would be an internal error. So instead of having to do call assert, a to-do would be its own variant of this that appends to-do to the message and doesn't have a condition. And the condition probably shouldn't be the first thing. It should probably be message first, file line, optionally a condition, which in this case would be null. maybe the kind or like the prefix message. So maybe we have assertion failed is the kind here. Maybe this is to do, or we should probably actually give these an enum kind. So this could be HBK error assert. This could be HBK error to do, for example. And then we put message after file and line. No, we did message first, file line condition. Like that. And then we can do unreachable, which would have no message. It would just be unreachable, like that. Reachable with no message on a file and line with no condition. This has a message, no whatever. And so then we just have to implement this as well as an enum for each of these errors. We could probably just put the errors right up here at the top. Type def enum HBK error. And we can also do an ice. We haven't even put an ice in here yet. So ice would be similar to do, actually. And assert might want to take in var args. So maybe we include va args here. And this is a thing to consider. Let's have assert and ice. Assert internal or something to do and unreachable. And for clarity, I guess this can really just be ice as well. Assert ice to do unreachable. Those can be our 4 for now. That's what we called it here. So here is the thing. We are compiling with GNU2X, which should be C23. So if we're mandating C23, we can use va opt to say, what is it? Va opt? Is it like this? I already don't remember. C23 va opt. Yeah, it is. So we can use va opt if we're in C23, which is fine. In the Laye compiler, I was experimenting with trying to abstract away the concept of comma plus va args. And if Sarade is here, maybe he can help me understand if I did it right, even, because I haven't stress tested it. Let me go open code on Laye and try to find it. I'm not going to zoom this one in just yet until I find it. Va opt. I think it was in here at least. Maybe it wasn't. No, it wasn't in here. It was in a thing I deleted because it was a test and I okay. I was trying to refactor my little pseudo standard library out of Laye, and then I didn't like the idea and I stopped messing with it. So in this case, we can just va opt plus va args and not think about it. I think what I was doing was I had like define va args comma or something, and I think I may have even had it take in this because we have to expand va args. So then if it was C23, it expanded to this. But if it was not C23, then it expanded to like a series of things that I found online. since I don't have the example anymore, I think it was like, okay, if it's on a compiler that supports doing VA args like this, then it would do this, and otherwise it would call like a nested macro or something, so that I could support this on multiple different versions. But I think we're just going to do this and call it good, not overthink it. So then HBK internal error can be one of the first things we define here. This will be void HBK internal error, and it needs to take in the error kind. It needs to take in const char message was the first one, message. It needs const char file name and int line number. Then it needs the assert, const char assert expression, and then it needs ... as format arguments to the message. So maybe I do put the message last, just for clarity that these are format arguments. So I can even say format instead, and that can be the error that we do. So then message would come after condition. Message would come after condition. Message would come after condition, and message would come after condition. Right? Interesting that it doesn't auto format that yet. That's fun. So then this it wants that on line. I'll also make it all separate, so that's fine. Then we can go to internal.c all the way to the top, and we can just, before we even get to arena stuffs, we can just yoink. There it is. So at the end of it all, we want to just exit 1. There it is. Wow. Next time I'm thirsty, I'm leaving. So we can start by switching on kind. And in the default case, we can just fprintf standard error. That's not supposed to be in the string. Do I have... We have no idea if we need to include color here. We have no idea if we need to include color here. But it's all internal, so we can just color anyway. And we can also... does Hibiku have a flag? It does have this stuff. That's going straight to the state. These two functions should probably just go into an internal thing. I don't want them to be part of Hibiku's API. So they should be internal. But I don't really want them to have the HBK prefix either. It just kind of feels weird. So I can make them a... Why does Unity take ages to load its scripts? It's so stupid. Fuck if I know. Fuck if I know. Probably it's huge internal standard library plus the UI shenanigans going on in the editor plus spinning up an older instance of the CLR. Are they on .NET? Period? Or are they still on framework or core? Or I don't even remember. I don't know how any of that works at the moment. So I want this, but I really don't want it as part of the API. But I also want it to be available here, so the state knows what's going on. I'm not going to worry about it. It's always going to print colors. So we want mod s for the color. And we want mod s, well, we'll just do this. We'll do that. Break. So what we want is color, ANSI color, like, I don't know, fucking, for the one that we don't know, it can be, there's not a whole lot of options. Cyan, if we don't know what it is. Case error. We started with assert. Assert can be like orange. I don't know. And ANSI, we have red. We could do red for asserts, and then ice can be like magenta. Color red. This will be assertion failed. And in this case only, we also want to handle the assert expression, but I think we'll do that separately and later. Ice can say internal compiler error, and it can be magenta. Then we have to do feels like a blue or a cyan. To do and unreachable. And unreachable doesn't need a code. Thinking about how I'm going to format stuff here. Because maybe it does need a colon and we want to do the file and line information right after it. We'll worry about it later. So unreachable gets to be... We already did magenta. Magenta was a good one. Yellow? Cool. So somewhere in here then, if printf standard error, we want the line and file, so we can do mod s colon mod d to get file name and the line number, and we can do those in maybe we do these first even, right? We can do this space this stuff, which then we probably want to include the color. No, we don't care about the color here. This is fine. Let me do mod s here to also do ANSI color reset. ANSI reset. There. Make sure it's all set up. Boom, boom, boom. Assertion failed, blah, blah, blah. So then unreachable really doesn't need anything. If we hit unreachable, we don't care about the assert expression or the format. I don't think. Although maybe we should. What we can do here is let's remove the colon from everything. And then we can say if assert expression is not equal to null, we can print the assert expression. So we can do a colon, assert expression, new line. And if we do the new line, that would put the message on the bottom. So maybe we do the message first. If the message is not null, then we can do an fprintf standard error new line. And we can say condition here, fprintf standard error assert condition. I call that an expression here, but it's probably more accurately just this. We can say assert expression. And we can have print f here line. Right, so then in here we can print f this with mod s to the color reset should probably happen immediately and regardless. So let's do that's actually fine the way it is, but without the mod s. Mod s for standard error. We want ANSI color reset it's great that I type one thing like slightly wrong and it doesn't know how to find it anymore. Color reset. Then we want if message is not equal to null, this, it's not message, it's format, is not equal to null. Then we can do a VA start of format, and AP comes first, right? Why do I always forget? It's like V in format where I have VA args V. Start V format. VA end V. So then what we really want is V F printf to standard error the thing. So VA args no existo. So where did we get standard align from? Why do we have standard align here? That's all it's got in it. Are we using align as and align of? We are using align of max. Right, that's why. Okay, so then standard arg, not VA list, that's what I meant. I probably don't need to explicitly include standard arg if we got the other two, but let's see. They're probably in internal. I'll include it explicitly anyway. So we want mod s, but the format. We want the format. So we want to fprintf standard error colon space, then the format here, then the new line. Okay. Like that. So that's a half decent, quick implementation to get us going. So if I clear, make, like that. Control reaches end of non-void function in syntax.c. Okay. Did I in internal forget to remove one of these? In right here. Okay, so we still have to fix that. The statement may fall through. Right. How do I mark something as no return? So I want this. If we go to syntax 170, I assume that that's the function declaration. Right here, yeah. How do I mark something as no return? Do I use a compiler built in unreachable? And then internal, the statement may fall through. Yeah. Right, so I want these to be no return explicitly. If Eternal's here, he may also know how to do this. See no return. This is CPP reference. Since C11, we have no return. So exit has no return. So my function that calls exit should probably inherit no return. So since C23, best compiler series, thanks so much for putting the effort into do this. Thank you. I hope it is the best, but I can only do what I can do. So no return in C23. I'm going to put this behind a macro, and we're going to have an HBK attribute no return or something, and that can probably be at the root, the actual public API level, because we might want that. So someone told me you have a question. Every time I'm not sure of something, I poke and prod to see if you're around. The question was more about the function of no return. I think this will do what I want. We're just going to implement it in C. So the specifies really use the convenience of macro no return, which is provided header and center no return. Yeah, so we're probably just going to... So standard no return. If I include standard no return, does this have the C23 guards in it? If it's greater than this, nothing happens here. The no return macro is deprecated in C23. We do not mark it as such because including the header file in C23 is also deprecated. We do not want to issue a confusing diagnostic for code which includes standard no return, followed by code that writes no return. The issue with such code is not with the attribute nor the use of no return, but with the inclusion of the header. Yes, we should be issuing a deprecation warning here, but cannot yet due to system headers which include this header file unconditionally. That's fair. So define no return to be no return, and define double underscore no return is defined to be 1. So if we're in C23, we should not be including standard no return. So like, we want if this and this, if this and it's greater than 2023, I'm just going to leave it at 00. No return is built into yes. I wanted the header itself to be a bit more C version agnostic. I can just leave it at, it's probably just easier if we say fucking use C23 and I don't have to write this stuff. So let's just go do that for now, and we can always backport it. It'll be a quick thing to backport. Any thoughts around the memory model for this language? Are you planning garbage collection arc? I don't know yet. I'm thinking just regular ass manual memory management for the sake of teaching how to implement a language like C. But if we want it to be interpreted, we probably also do want a memory model. I've never compiled a language with a garbage collector or a reference counter. Yeah, anything else is pain, that's probably correct. So yeah, I hadn't actually thought about it, but honestly, being garbage collected or reference counted might be a fun experiment for the language. So we might consider that and not do manual memory. There will probably be manual memory management facilities to bypass the garbage collector for the purposes of interop and stuff. But that's a good point. We might want to do a garbage collector or something to teach some things that are not always taught. And I would love to learn to write a good garbage collector. We'll write a pretty simple one if we do for the interpreter. And like I said, I'll have to figure out how to do it for compiled code. Right. Okay, so let's go to... Reference counting would be fairly simple. Yeah. Okay, first off, why the hell is this doing this? Is it because there's a thing in... Okay, let me... What is this? Wiki location. Okay. What did I do? Are they just rogue errors from when I was doing other things? Okay, so in HBK internal, we have this internal error thing. The next question I have for the world is no return. If I just no return the declaration, did not appear on original declaration. Okay. So if I go into here and do that, does that make it happy? I think so. That was my question. So then if I here, assertion failed by more RAM. Cool. It compiles, no warnings, no errors. We get exactly what I want. That's perfect. So in Hibiku 60, assertion failed, buy more RAM. Okay, so Hibiku.c 60. Really? So do I have this backwards? Oh, I don't have it backwards. I just never fucking put a condition behind it. If not condition, then do the thing. It doesn't like that. This. I should probably just be a touch more consistent and do that. Okay, that's why it failed. So if failed to allocate correct count for string data. Interesting. So we're hitting assertions that we hadn't checked before. Good thing we did this. So 94 in hibiku.c. Assert vector count is equal to source text and file length plus 1. Or is equal to file length with 1. Failed to allocate correct count for string data. So what were we trying to do here? When we set capacity, we're not setting the count. This is when we set the count. So the capacity this is where we want the count. If I do that, invalid lex or source text not null terminated. Interesting. So now we're in HPK lex 450, but it lex just fine otherwise. So that might be invalid or a bad check. HPK lex 450. Lexer state data does not equal to null. Lexer state data sub lexer text count. Lexer text data, lexer text count does not. It should equal to 0. Copy pasta error. To do parse decal function. Okay. So before we go any farther, what do I draw? Get S. Cool. So we've done a lot of things to give us asserts. I believe that's basically everything. So let's git add lib and git commit with a message. Add assertions and do and ice and unreachable. Implementation. Implementation. Across two lines that didn't make my brain happy. Hit push. Okay. And everybody has access to this repo, by the way, if you want to follow along throughout the stream. There's a link in the description to, one, join the Discord. That would be fun. To, oh, I forgot to, never mind. Hold on. It would be https://github.com/national/hibiku. That should take you where you want to go. If that hasn't updated yet, I'll put it in the chat. Anybody who wants to go take a look at the source code. Last commit right now. I'll be updating this a touch more, but I mean, how to build, make, how to use, do that. There's not really a help message, and there's not really a lot to do. Just pass it a source file and take a look at the grammar. You'll find out what is and isn't implemented as it fails. Hopefully in the next couple of streams and or videos of this, we'll get some more new user-friendly stuff in place. But for right now, we're just kind of getting the feel out for what we're doing. So now we can go try to parse function main. So we want to do that in HBK syntax at parse function, parse decal function. This is going to match our BNF grammar for decal function. We're already at the point where we have this keyword. So we're expecting that attributes, when we parse them, plus this export keyword, are already parsed. We want to hit function and do everything else. So we can even just grab like via this for reference, go into syntax and be like, yo, that's what we're implementing. We're implementing that. So we want to HBK assert that P token. Do we have a current? Actually, HBK current, HBK parser token. Is that what I called it? Parser token is parser peak 0. Okay, so HBK parser token P. It's been a sec since I looked at the code base. Dot kind is equal to HBK token function. And then in this case, we want it to say we'll say must be called with the parser position at the function. That is not the character I wanted. Keyword. Like that. Let's also do an HBK assert that P doesn't have to know. And that's good. So then at this point, we know we're going to return a function. Let's valid parser pointer. That's what we've been doing. Also, actually, while I'm thinking about it, one thing I want to do is force this message to, I would love to just be able to select those three. Force this message to be a string on both sides. That is a thing I have learned. And since this will be parsed or passed to a function that expects it to be a string literal, you know, for security reasons, this will give me a compiler error if we pass in a non-string, which will be good. So now we want to HBK node question mark syntax. HBK syntax, that's what it is. I can see it here and here. Woo! HBK syntax. Func node. HBK syntax create. We're creating it within the parse tree, within the parser. We want HBK syntax decal function, and it needs to be at HBK parser token p dot kind. Not kind dot location. I was looking up there reading. Location. That gives us a new node at that location that we're eventually going to return. So return func node. Func node decal. We don't have a decal function yet. So let's go into HBK syntax and declare some data for this function. So literal decal variable. Let's start right here. Struct anonymous structures are love. Decal function. We want bool is exported, which might get factored out for simplicity. It might become a function. Who cares? HBK string view name. HBK syntax. We want a return type. But we also want, do we have an HBK vector? Is that what we did? Yeah, HBK vector of HBK syntax for parameters. Declarations. How about that? Parameter declarations. And a return type. And then HBK syntax for the body, which should basically match what we're looking at here. We have list of parameters, which currently is not actually defined. We need to define separated parameters. Return type and a function body. So that should do that. I like writing languages that have shorthand return syntax as well. So we can consider, did we do that actually in Hibiku BNF? If I do function body, it's arrow syntax. Or a compound statement, or a semicolon. So we might just go ahead and include a bool that says is arrow body or something, or we can have a syntax node specifically be the arrow node. We could come into our BNF here and say like arrow statement. All right, so I have statement compound, but we could very easily also have a statement arrow, which is not part of the actual statement list, but is this, and is one thing that you can do here. And this could be statement empty, for example, but it's just a terminal, so we don't care that much. So defining it like that could let me create a syntax node called statement arrow, which is an implicit return thing. Without having to add a flag, it would still be part of the node, and we'd still see it represented within the syntax. So let's do that. Let's go back up to our syntax kind declaration. So we have function variable compound. Let's add arrow. And while we're here, actually, we can do that. So yeah, then in Hibiku syntax.c, we have a couple of things to work toward. Parsing these. For right now, we have an expect, hbk expect. We do have a parser expect. We have a parser expect semi. We should really expect a couple of different things. So this is just for expecting a semicolon. Let's expect a hbk token kind. And before I implement this, I'm going to go get some more water. I don't know why I have my headphones on. I'm not listening to anything. No sounds. Oh well, I'll be right back. Water required. Could have taken my trash with me before I did that. Oh well. Water. Can statement arrow be without the arrow part and have an expression in places where statement is expected? Might be useful for implementing things like expression, returning value, switch expression. Is that what the ending says for inting things like expression? Okay, that's it. We would probably just use different nodes for that. I don't know if I fully understand your question, but are you talking about like Rust style? If I put just the number 1 here, it'll return 1. We can make as many of these things as we want, expression-like. I have no problem with that. But the arrow is specifically just shorthand for having a body anyway. So this would be equivalent to just this, I guess, if we did both. So I guess if we do this, I don't like implicit returns personally, which is why I don't do this, and I do the arrows. The arrow is still an explicitly produces 1. But I have no qualms with, like, int a equals 1. Like, not like that. In Laye, we do yield 1, like this, and that gives you a compound expression that returns the value 1. So this evaluates to 1. I don't know. I think in Hibiku, we would do, like, a do block. So we could be like, do something, yield. Yield would probably still be a keyword if I wanted to do it that way. But I guess technically this is fine. It still just feels weird. If we do this, I will probably do the yield thing as well. And we'll yield 1. I think that is what we'll do. That's my personal preference if I were to implement a language like this. Mostly because I've already done it. +1 for yield. Okay. Then that'll be the idea. We haven't really gotten to the point where we're well defining what is or is not an expression and what does or does not return a value. We've been kind of brief in our description of things here. We haven't gotten to things like while or for, but one thing we will probably have is expert if. And an expert if would be the keyword if followed by some condition. And thinking, sorry. So not having the keyword yield is nicer in really short if expressions, but I like it more in block expressions. So let's think about this for a second. If I were to have if foo bar else baz, is that something that we would expect to see? Does this feel right? And this is probably where you're like, would there be an implicit arrow and it would be called the arrow thing, but it's not. It'd be like an implicit yield instead. TBH wouldn't overload an educational language with features like that. Yeah, which are really complicated to implement. Well, expressions are not complicated to implement at all, Mr. Mugame. They were one of the easiest things to add to Laye, and they're a very popular feature nowadays, so I have no qualms teaching people that it is easy, like incredibly easy. At least from the front to mid section. I've never tried to implement something like a backend myself, but it just compiles down to simple things. It's basically just temporaries, and you return the temporary. The actual implementation is not that complicated. I agree I don't want to overcomplicate the language for educational purposes, but the concept of these kinds of complex expressions is popular, and they're not... Oh, you did, yeah. Yeah, well, I read it wrong. Regardless, I'm not... Yeah, maybe we don't do it for brevity, but again, it's not complicated either. I still don't quite have a scope in mind for this. Like, I know it's going to end up being kind of long, right? Because we're going to try to do everything ourselves, all the way down to a full VM, and we're probably going to start with a tree walker, then a VM, then an optimizing compiler, right? So like it's this, yeah, maybe it should be a touch simpler. But if we're implementing like a lowest level, I'm thinking, okay, maybe we have a pass first that does high level sema and then lowers to like the lowest common denominator of the language, and that's the thing that we intend to interpret and compile. Brain stuff. Yeah. So yeah, what do I want to do? I'm just trying to picture the scope in my head of the next few steps. The parser is another simple thing. The semantic analysis pass is also probably going to be pretty simple. Depending on how we handle importing other code and overloads. We probably want to handle overloads to some extent, but we probably won't make them very complicated. The more we lean on a reference counter or a garbage collector, the less I have to worry about some low-level features causing problems. We can probably very easily build a dynamic array into the language, for example, not have to worry too much about templates. We can do... I don't think this language should support templates. As much as that would be a really cool thing to teach people, I think that's going to push it over the edge of complexity. So we're not going to do templates, which is why I want a language level dynamic array and maybe a language level hash map. Like, if I were to say type, and we can make the dynamic array the only array, it's just a list. And an array literal is just a list, so you get a list. So if we said type list, for example, to make it, I should call it type array. That's fine. So then an array is always dynamic, and it's any type with brackets and something in it. Right, optionally a length to be pre-allocated with. But the array type maybe doesn't have anything inside here to specify how long it is because it's dynamic. So if you were constructing an array, maybe it would. I don't know. And then I've always kind of liked the syntax. We could call it table to kind of mirror Lua, since that's an inspiration. Table could be like this, or it could be value then key, like that. So an array would take nothing, and a dictionary would take the type of the key. That's one way we could do tables, typed tables. These are less necessary as we have structs, but they're still good for dynamic memory, not statically defined, well-typed memory. They're very easy to implement for the interpreter, but the compiler might have some extra work to do. Depending on what we do at the runtime level, right? If the compiler has to generate all the code for it, that's blech. But if we provide a couple of runtime functions in C to link against, then this shouldn't be terrible. So then if we're doing a garbage collected or a reference counted language and we're not doing manual memory management, we probably also don't want pointer types. And if we were doing FFI, we could just say that an integer is a pointer, and we'll just have opaque pointers. Templates are also like not super complicated to implement. If you know how Alexa Parser Analyzer backend works, implementing your own templates is not really that hard. Yeah, it's sometimes iffy in Sema, but you don't really need any separate algorithms or data structures. You do need a way to like instantiate the templates, which can influence the way that you build your syntax tree. But otherwise, yeah, that's about it. I still don't think it's something I want to include for complexity reasons if we're considering not including other things. We might not even include this table type. We might just say associative array all the way. But I don't know. I also don't have like a mission statement, a purpose, like where would this language be used? So maybe without that context, I'm not exactly sure what we'd want feature-wise. And another thing, actually, I was thinking about, when we started talking about functions again, I was thinking about function call syntax. And I'm now curious to try, I don't know what style it's called, but just like non-parentheses function calls and doing deproceduring on them and stuff. Because that might also be an interesting thing to talk about. And it would maybe open us up to doing partial application, which would be fun to talk about. I guess I more started thinking about this when we started talking about it maybe being garbage collected, because then we could do really easy closures, and closures are fantastic. We could make this like half functional, because that could be what makes the book more unique and interesting. Is a lot of these compiler books in C's are for C-like languages, and if you're going to build a functional language, then those books are probably written in like a Haskell or an OCaml or a something. So maybe I can be the mediator of like, look, functional programming is becoming popular, but nobody's done it like mainstream in a book. I don't know, maybe. So maybe we treat this as a C-style functional language. Maybe that's my interesting draw. Maybe Hibiku is functional, which would then mean that we would want templates of some sort, or a Hindley-Milner type system. And I can still provide some built-in, like I wouldn't probably want to go full functional immutable kind of thing. I wouldn't want to go all the way to the extreme. I could. I don't know that I'd want to, but I could. Interesting to think about, though. So I've always wanted to build a compiler for a functional language and learn how those work. But I don't know if I want to go all the way to optimizing memory and just building another functional language. Yeah, but that's what I mean, focus on the complex special stuff, because if the reader learned that she should be able to do all the other stuff, yeah. So if we go in the functional direction, then I can also teach the Hindley-Milner type system or something similar from a non-functional programmer's perspective, because I don't do functional programming all the time. I'm not in all the terminology. So if we're building a C-like language that uses the HM type system, that would be a good way to teach that, be unique, and something that other people wouldn't come across in this context all the time. And if we do deproceduring, you're definitely not going to see that very much. Function application, you're probably not going to, or not a partial application, you're probably not going to see that very much. So yeah, let me walk through this real quick. We can still define them like this, right? Do we want to, if we still define a function like this with parentheses for its argument list, it makes it less obvious that you can partially apply it. I don't want to go so far as to say we have like A to B to C and do this syntax. And I don't know that I want to be done away with curly braces. I don't know if I want to take it that far, right? Lazy evaluation. Maybe. Maybe. Scala has multiple argument lists, like... Yeah, but I don't know if I want to do that either. If I wanted it to be curryable at every argument. And then there's also, hey, if I'm doing an HM type system, I don't need to have a, we don't need to have types, right? We could be maybe explicit and say that this is a type constraint. Right? What do we think about that? Should you be able to go compile without type annotations? If it's yes, that's kind of what I'm looking at. Would a type annotation be a type constraint instead? And if I'm still doing procedural style stuff, I would still want to have locals, probably, and have mutable memory, probably. And like if we're not going 100%, but if we're not going 100%, does it make sense to use some of these things? I don't know. So like, I mean, what if let's just write some example code here. Control A backspace is not okay. So Control A. Oh, I've ruined that. That's why. Hold on. I need to go change something. Settings, keybinds. Open that. I think what I actually want is keybinds. So, God, what did I call it? Multiple locals. Oh God. Multiple me's or multiple local declarations? I don't understand. The sidebar here. What is it? Sidebar. I can't do that. I hate that. I set some keybinds that I'm now regretting. And I don't know how to search by keybind, and I forget what it's called. If it's not the sidebar, then I don't know what it is. Focus sidebar. Yes. So the key binding question is like AH and A something else. AF to focus? That's what it is. So okay, so focus. Focus something. Focus something. Focus something. God, I hate this menu. I've made a mistake. You were speaking about multiple decals, and I was making a joke about multiple use. Yes. There it is. Activity bar. So I called it Control A for activity. Okay, so we want activity bar. So instead of Control A F, it should probably be Control Alt A or Control Shift, Control Alt, Shift Alt, Control Alt. If I do Control Shift A F to focus activity bar and AH to hide activity bar, then I can select all again. Okay. So if we said, what I was going to get at is maybe some potential syntax here. If I had function add and, oh, we could do hyphens even. Add and maybe double. And that took like A, B, double. The doubles are double's not a type. Right, so and then I could say local result is a plus b if double result times equals 2, return result. Then this still shows that we're doing like manipulation on local variables here and returning things, but we're still doing like and maybe I want to put the double at the front even, so then I could be like local twice or something. We could say double, add in maybe double true. And we would say print add and double 1, 2, and that would give us 6. This is not a great example of what I'm talking about, but it was the first thing that came to mind, and I'm like, I don't disagree that it might be nice to have types for API stability, but also that's kind of not the point of an HM type system. If we weren't doing HM and this kind of function application, then 100% agree. But the point of these is usually that it's a pattern of things with optional constraints. The more I think about this, the more that we do, the more we might end up doing actual like type patterns as well. So like let's a lot to think about now before we get much further. Maybe require them only for exported functions. No, same thing. It doesn't matter whether the function's exported or not. If we go for a Hindley-Milner type system, you are not expected to require types. Types are inferred absolutely everywhere, all the time. They would be optional regardless if we went Hindley, probably optionally regardless if we went HM. If we went HM, then we might also want to change how we do structs. Structs would... So currently I'm thinking just do fucking struct or something, foo, and have like int bar, right? But the more functional we go, the more we just want to do pattern matching, the less we want to have these kind of structures. I clearly haven't settled on doing structs like this anyway because I haven't highlighted that word. Like the easiest thing to do is function application like this. The next thing to think about is the syntax of functions. Are we doing argument lists like this? Or are we doing argument lists like this? I will say for a compiler tutorial, a functional language is probably not the best idea. I agree that a fully functional language is not the best idea. So I don't want to take this too far. But these kind of things aren't taught in the same context that this other traditional compiler stuff is, by my cursory research at least. And more functional features are becoming more popular in languages like this. So I don't want to build a functional language, but I'm trying to... Yes, that's why I'm not sure I want to do it. It could be ambiguous. So I still prefer this, but if we're doing this kind of function application, which also I don't know why, I mean, technically it would be this with a space, but we probably don't need to go so far as doing partial application and currying and stuff. And we probably don't need to do this kind of deproceduring nonsense. I do still maybe think that this is what we'll have Hibiku do. So that this would also be then add of group. But we can still have the type system do regular ass inference here. So that function add would just be a plus b, a plus b, and then just fucking print add 6. Even though this doesn't have type annotations and is statically compilable. So this is probably still what we want, with the expectation that we might have C-like types that could be like foo, bar, and then bar is a type. So then we could have bar value. And then since types always, oh, well, I've done this in the wrong spot, it would be value bar. Since types are more explicit, if I wanted to have local values of type bar, then the generic syntax or type argument syntax could also be a function call. In add, will A and B the same type to conform to the same thing? It depends on what we implement for plus, right? So not necessarily. If there are overloads for the plus operator that take in different types, then it can be whatever the hell. If we only define plus to be operable on integers, then this can resolve to only possibly produce integer results or consume integer results, which will force A and B to only be integers, and you'll get a compiler error if you set one true, right? But if we, for some reason, defined a Boolean conversion operator to get this to a number, or we defined an overload of plus that takes a Boolean, then the inference would take over and know that this could be one or both, anything basically. The point of this kind of inference is you treat this as a generic function all the time, and anything where the implicit generic arguments apply is valid, and anything else is an error. So if this doesn't, it's like C++ templates with better error messages, basically. So this would be foo of bar, which then means we don't have to have like a dynamic array in the language. We could just have list of int, right? Probably not interfaces like that. Type classes, if I understood them better, I'd say yes, so I'm going to say maybe. I don't know exactly yet. Okay, so what we could definitely say, though, is this is probably going to stick around as the syntax with optional type annotations everywhere, which will be treated as type constraints. I think we can safely say that. And since we can safely say that, we are going to say optional decal parameter with is it curlies for repeatable optional stuff, 0 or more? This decal parameter. And then a decal parameter would be an identifier. What have we called identifier? With optionally the colon and a type, a type constraint. And then also optionally equals an expression. Right. Which I guess we should do like this. It's the same thing as variable. But does it make more sense to do it this way? I don't actually know. I think that's fine. I think that makes it easier to reason that this is the optional part for each of them. So that's just this part of a declaration, basically. And maybe, hear me out, maybe we add optional things that are parameter specific here, like the const attribute. Maybe functions declare how they take things in. Probably not with const, but maybe with, I don't know. We'll think about what use cases we have for passing things, and maybe we make parameters more unique. So let's also go into syntax. We've got decal variable. Let's add decal parameter. Okay. Decal parameter. So let's just start with a function identity that can return A. See if we can parse that. That's no type annotations. We could, since we don't have sema on, we can also do like type where identity only applies to ints for some reason. And we can also have this like return A. But this one doesn't require any recursive parsing. So we can get to maybe doing this later. So if we, not git push, if we go back and do this, control reaches end, return func node. Okay, so we just haven't implemented everything. We need this first, expect, that's right. So, actually, one more thing before we get out of the BNF here. I am now questioning curly bracket syntax. I am thinking I might want to go the route of keyword delimiters. So instead of if I'm doing keyword delimiters, maybe I don't need this. That might be still fine. So if I said function identity A and end, and we did like a return A, right? So then this would be the shorthand for this, right? And the reason I'm saying that is maybe for more complicated compound expressions. If we're doing an HM type system, do we want to apply some awkward curly brackets to it? I don't know yet. Because this is the perfect language to also introduce, like, do. on something. And do, I don't think wants brackets. Not like a do block, like a Lua do block, but like a Haskell do block. I don't necessarily want to go all the way to like let blocks. Let foo in, right? Let foo in. Maybe. Again, I probably don't want to go full functional, but some functional things are popular, and I kind of actually want to try to teach an HM type system for inference. So is there anything else useful that isn't absolutely crazy? And if so, would these kind of keyword delimited blocks make it easier to read and parse? Maybe. For most of the expressions, it's not going to matter because we're going to be using semicolon to delimit the end of an expression, and most likely a keyword or an identifier to delimit the beginning, right? A equals B. A is a keyword followed by equals. That's the easiest look ahead in the world. So that's easy. If it starts with a keyword, return, if, while, do. Those are easy. Semicolon, semicolon, semicolon. Semicolon. The only case where we would want a semicolon mandatorily is usually to delimit a function call. So maybe expressions don't even need them. Maybe we could just try to write a semicolon-less language. I don't know. I don't think I want to go that far. I like semicolons. I could make them optional. A lot of people like optional semicolons, so that's probably the better thing to just be like, look, you don't have to, and here's why, and we can talk about it. I'm already almost out of water again. I'm probably thinking way too hard about this. Optional semicolons require more complex parser logic. Not really. For C++, yes. For a simple language like this, not really. You just treat a semicolon like a statement. And it's that simple. Right. It just means that this is now a valid list of statements that you could optionally put things in the middle of. So it's more about, see, not having a full language spec makes it hard to reason about, and this decision might change later. I also don't like optional semicolons. Some people do, and it probably doesn't matter which we do. I think we'll stick with mandatory semicolons just for consistency. Too many optional things can make it hard to read other people's code. So I think mandatory is still a good recommendation. Oof. Why am I tired like that? I don't know. Yeah, so I'm still torn on doing this or the end. I kind of wanted Hibiku to be like a typed and C like Lua, which is making me want to do this for C like syntax, but I'm also like, I could just end. Then we could do other things. Now let's stick with curlies. Yeah, I also think curlies look better. Let's not overcomplicate it. Let's stick with curlies. Let's implement this parsing and work our way up from there to this parsing. So back in HBK syntax, we need to be able to expect something. And normally, I would like to get the thing back. So HBK token out token. Let's then say if out token not equal to null, then out token is parser token. If not HBK consume the kind, then we throw an error and return false. Otherwise, we return true. Well, expect doesn't return anything. That's right. Consume does, but expect does not. So then in this case, we want a handful of special cases. So if int kind is less than 256, we can do this to give us the character we expected. I don't really need to cast it to an int everywhere. It's implicitly an int. Otherwise, we can switch on I didn't support. There it is, create form. I was about to say, like, how did I not support that? And also interesting, okay, it is just going straight in there. And we're returning it in case we want it. And we're returning it because we could add related. So yeah, we're intentionally discarding it now. I just needed to remember that. Okay. So let me then do const var switch kind default HBK assert false unexpected token kind when calling HBK parser expect. Then I can say case token identifier, that suffix equals an identifier. And then I can do diagnostic create format. Then we can HBK assert. My fan started going, if you can hear that. I don't know why. So then I can give special messages for special token kinds, or just the character for a character. Okay. So then way the hell back down here, we want to expect something. So token identifier is the obvious first one, because we are here. So expect the identifier, and we want it out as func node function declaration name. Then also this, and then here we want to do parameters, and then do I have check? Do I have parser at? If it's at token arrow, I don't have a token arrow. equal greater. There it is. If it's at equal greater, and even better, if we consume equal greater, then we want HBK syntax implicit return. It's not an implicit return. Return value is going to be parse expression. And then we can construct the equal greater node, which really we don't even need to have a temporary for. We can say, don't you dare turn on fan. Arrow statement arrow can be HBK create syntax in ptree with the kind HBK arrow syntax statement arrow, and the location. That might be why I didn't do it. So the location could just be the arrow token, but I feel like in error messages for the arrow function, we probably only care about the return value. So if that's the case, let's just set it to the same location. Return value location. That's fine. This one we assume will work. But in this case, we don't even need to say statement arrow anything necessarily. We can say func node dot decal function dot body is this. Now we can just walk this to this dot arrow statement arrow dot value. You could also just span the arrow and the expression. Yeah, I could. I like trying not to do that, because often the delimiters are not the important part of the error. It depends on the error, really, which kind of sucks. But like, if I were to issue an error for something related to this if statement, I wouldn't want it to span all of these lines, and I wouldn't have to write logic that can truncate some of these lines down. I'd rather it just be like on the if keyword and say the location of the if is the if keyword, or the location of the function, which we're doing here, is the function keyword. So then in the case where I need to issue something about a function, I can do it here. If I care about the function node's name, I can go into its name and do the, well, in this case, I'm only doing the name. Yeah, that makes sense. It doesn't always work. So we already have a problem here I didn't even think about. Name is a string view, but it should be a token. And it should be a token in both of these cases, so I'm going to have to go update the variable declaration as well. So in HBK var decal here, we basically just want this. So I'll have a couple more things to change, like down here. I'm going to do first, this is variable name string value. And this just needs to be finished. So statement arrow value is return value. So then I need to go into here and, oh, that's the F11 button. Let's move this down here. And then we can say struct statement arrow HBK syntax value, like that. So then, ooh, my nose, ow, ooh, nose. Then down here when we're printing syntax, I can also go ahead and add a couple things. Case HBK decal function break. If decal function body is not equal to null. Then we probably also want to be format appending decal function name string value and all of the parameter declarations eventually as well. Basically, do I want to put the entire string value of the function type here? Maybe. If the type here exists, it's doing that. So I should probably just build out the entire parameter and return type as well. So that means we want this, and eventually, well, this will need to be mod s to get color of reset. I don't remember how I do that. Right, because here, fancy color X. Yeah. So I do just want the word reset. Just doesn't look correct. Where the hell was I? Here. Reset. Like that. Then we also want a reset on this. And we need to do the parameters in there. And then we can do this for the return type. For if decal function return type. Like that. So then finally for, are we doing any for loops? I'm so used to, yeah, I'm doing exactly the same thing I am in Laye, so that's good. I is less than HBQ vector count of, what am I looking at node? Decal func parameter declarations. Plus. Then let's say if I is greater than 0, then we're doing basically this with a comma. Boom. And otherwise, we want to do this plus the name. So we can do this and this. So then this would just be, this case, color name, string view expand, node, decal function. We should grab HBK syntax for the parameter syntax. That'll be node decal function dot parameter declarations I. So I can simplify this shit and say this arrow decal param, which we don't have yet, decal parameter. That'll be name string value. Then decal parameter type, like that. Decal parameter type. Do that. So then we're going to copy decal variable, turn it into decal parameter. This, not print the initial value in the signature up there, but we will say while we're iterating over them, we can vector push the parameter syntax here so that we can see it. So that does also mean that we're going to copy this for decal parameter. to get its initial value, which for the purposes of this should probably be called default value. Okay. That looks good. And then we'll also have base HBK syntax STMT arrow. In the case of the arrow, we have nothing to print except for just pushing the child arrow value like that. And we're not printing a lookup name, which we should be doing. If we hit syntax lookup name, I don't have a kind. That's the screenshot button for names yet. So in Laye, I call it a name ref. I think in Hibiku so far, we've called the token a lookup identifier here. I think in the BNF we called it a lookup. Here we'll call it just identifier for consistency. So when we hit identifier, I'm also going to grab this existing formatting. So then this will just be node identifier name string value, which we can put together by just grabbing right above literal identifier name string value. So that'll print a bunch of new tokens or a bunch of new syntax nodes that we're doing. While we're here and parsing a primary expression, let's grab identifier and then say syntax identifier. And then, interesting that I never called those not invalid. Identifier name is token. So then this is just, we'll call it primary so I can copy pasta it more easily. Just apply it here. Invalid is fine here. Okay. So now we need to go back to parsing our function. So we've hit arrow. It can parse an arrow value. We need to parse parameters. And like, does this work actually if I come into my hello and just remove this? All parser routines must advance the token index by at least one. So, what? Are we not doing that? We're not expecting a semicolon. What the heck? If I... We're not hitting expect at all. What the heck? So we're parsing this whole thing. So... What? What? If we got here, then I would expect this to advance, print a diagnostic. Before we hop in the debugger, if I just remove this comment, what does that do? Well, that's just not even happy. What? What? If I don't have a comma or a comment, okay, let me put both of these through the debugger. We should have debugging enabled. So if I just yoink, problem. I don't think my asserts trigger because we're just calling exit. So I need like a debug trap. Um, um, uh, fuck. So if I go into HPK internal, .c, then we need to hit a debug trap here. Shut up. Raise sig trap. That's POSIX only. These are all relatively recent. Yeah, I want the debug part of assert without getting assert. If I don't think I have standard assert included. If I temporarily include assert and just go into assert, fine, I'll do it here. It's gonna be wrapped in a function, so I can't see it. I just want a debug trap. I just want a debug trap. I want an implicit breakpoint, always, right here. I don't want to set a breakpoint. I could just set a breakpoint there, but I'd like it to just automatically happen. So there's that. Failed to allocate correct capacity for string data. This should really be greater than or equal to. Probably is the problem. So if I run that through here, all parser routines must advance. So we're back to this one. So the next thing I want to do is, what the fuck are we at? The current tokens, current token, current index is 0. We parsed a function declaration. It's not null. Its location is disappearing. Offset 1, length 8. Because of the new line character. Are my routines just not calling advance? Because what we're doing, well, I mean, the expression should definitely. Last parser index was 0. I killed the debugger because I wasn't thinking. What was our current index at? Current index is also 0. So parser current token is tokens of current index. Token function. It's still at the function token, despite having parsed something. What's in the syntax here? In decal function. It doesn't have a return type. It doesn't have a body. It doesn't say it's exported. It just has a name called function. None of these are populated. What the heck? Let's breakpoint here into over, over, into over, over. Create the node. Invalid. Well, first off, where is that error happening? Diagnostic render to string. Oh, that's just a bad assert. It's just a bad assert. We got and. What? What? Lexer. Uh, I'm doing stir and compare because we don't have a 0 null terminated string. So what I really want is keyword infos.keyword image. size t keyword length is strlen if token string value health is less than keyword length. Thank you. There. So we've got a warning. I think it's safer to convert this to an N64 because we have a well-defined list of keywords. Not that anybody's ever going to have a 4 gigabyte identifier, but you know. So there we go. Identity with A. Now we need to parse parameters. Ooh. Lots of little errors. This is why you assert and you use a debugger. Asserts and debuggers are great. I'm going to do this. We can assert that it's a HBK token. Let's not actually assert that it's that. Let's grab param node, syntax decal parameter. Yes, yes it is. We don't have a whole lot in here yet, but there are a decent amount of asserts. 101 results for assert. Okay. So return parameter. Laye's got 1500, I think. Lots of asserts. Oh. I think as soon as we get these parameters parsed, I'm going to call it because I'm all of a sudden tired and I don't want to be tired on stream. While I'm thinking about it to do, we have done the thing. We have duly done the thing. Yeah, I know you meant Laye. I just didn't say that, I guess. Have we done the fancy diagnostic? We haven't done the fancy diagnostic rendering, so that's still later. Haven't done either of those. We've done HBK assert. So that's something that we're going to think about because we talked about the expressionness of things. Not currently. It's a pretty simple add. We could do that right now even, or I can just add it to the to-do. Don't compile asserts, etc. in release build. It's not a huge deal at the moment because I don't provide a way for you to even configure a release build. It's just a single makefile with no parameters. You could edit the makefile and like remove debug info and set release mode and enable optimizations and stuff, but it's not like explicitly supported in the build right now. So eventually, I mean, it's really easy to disable them. You just, that's OBS. You just, where's my internal header? Internal.h. I guess I didn't have it open. You just guard this with a if and debug and define them as empty otherwise. Which I guess we can go ahead and say if and def and debug. We do this. and if, and we do an else. Then we can define hbk assert to do literally nothing. Ice to do literally nothing, to do literally nothing, and hbk assert. So what we really want to do is only put assert behind this, and all the rest are always enabled. Now that I think about it, right? So there you go. Then when we update the build system to allow building in release mode and installing and stuff like that, asserts will be compiled out. We can even do while 0 to continue to enforce the syntax, just in case. So there. Ta-da! Syntax. So we want to parser expect p token identifier def to param node decal param. We do that to enforce it to be treated like a function and require a semicolon at the end. If I were to type it out in here and just say, like, well, I mean, it depends on what the contents of your macro are. It's just common practice for a lot of people to do it this way to avoid the edge cases. Because if I say do while 0, this will only execute the body once, and you'll notice it says expected a semicolon, right? So for any macro that I want to require a semicolon suffix for syntactic consistency, you wrap it in this, it'll get executed once because the while condition is 0, and this whole loop gets compiled out basically, but syntactically it requires a semicolon at the end. That's a good one, yeah. The if foo bar or whatnot. And then else. Yeah, because if we were to do like a block, we couldn't put a semicolon here either. Exactly. So it's a syntactically valid statement that can have a semicolon at the end because a semicolon doesn't go after a block like that. So Eternal's got it right. If we were to do if, just so people who can't see the chat can see, if foo this else bar, right? This statement doesn't make sense. I'll make this if one just so it doesn't complain about it. So here it's going to say else doesn't expected a statement. So if we wrapped them in this to make compound macros that use compound statements or expressions or something, this is syntactically invalid. It basically makes macros very consistent. Yep. Yeah, again, not again, but not compound words, not counting compiler extensions. It is the most standard portable way to make very sane scoped macros that require syntactic consistency. So anytime you've got a more complicated macro that doesn't require returning a value, highly recommend doing exactly what we just did and wrapping everything in a do while. You get a scope, you get a mandatory semicolon, it's standard, no compiler extensions. If you want to return a value, then those don't require semicolons, so you don't need this. It's not, because I'm just doing a function call. I'm just very used to doing it. Yeah. It does not really add anything. The other thing it might technically add is preventing people from messing with the actual expression itself. Like I also here did, hey, I want to require a message to be a string, so I'm going to use C's feature of adjacent string literals get concatenated, so they can only pass a string literal as message here. That's one thing I can do to enforce something. The other thing I can do here is by delimiting this with other things, I can prevent like nested macros doing concatenation to the name here when I really don't want to. It's kind of the same reason that everybody wraps stuff in. I'm not doing it for message because of the adjacent concatenation thing, but they'll wrap their macro parameters in parentheses so that they don't accidentally get past something that messes with the preprocessor in a way that doesn't make sense. So while it's not technically necessary in this situation, I'm just in the habit of doing it for macro consistency everywhere that I do it to avoid any potential weirdnesses. Yes. Yeah, HBK assert being the exception because we have this if condition. But these ones, nah, not necessary. What eternal is basically saying is all I have to do, strictly speaking, is this to get an unreachable. And I might just do that to make it slightly more readable, but like it's not necessary to do this one way or the other. It's not necessary. So those are the alternatives right there. Okay, so back to syntax. We've expected a name, and technically, for the purposes of just getting this to parse, that's all we have to do. So then we can say, now every time I go write a loop like this, I forget the like simplest correct way to do it. Yeah, those are good reasons. To not have to read out C code out loud, this is what eternal said. For defining foo a plus b, basically, you don't want to have x times a plus b expand with this parenthesized, which is here. And what you really want is for it to look like this, right? You want it to have this so that x times this grouped. So every time I do this, I want to have interspersed commas, but no trailing comma. The trailing comma is easy. The not trailing comma is not in. I just never know how to make it look like a good, not complicated fucking loop. How the hell do I do this correctly? If not consumed, yeah. I think that's also what I normally do. I don't know why I'm not remembering what I normally do. So we just want while basically not parser EOF. Do I have at parser at p token EOF? Then if not consume p comma break. I just hate having a break all the way at the fucking bottom usually, but I think that's the sanest way to do it. I always end up trying different things to try to find something else that's more sane, and it's just probably the only way to do it. So HBK syntax param equals parse decal parameter HBK assert null not parsed param. Then HBK vector push to func node decal function dot parameter declarations param. And that gets us that. So then we can, we're not doing types right now for either of them. Invalid syntax node pointer. Oh, because we also want to not be at the close. So then, what the heck? Okay. Then we want to go into our hello Hibiku and put a back in. And did not check if it was optional. Default value type. Yep. There we go. So this has a space here because I forgot to remove that. There. So now it's identity of A, takes in a parameter called A. This is the full statement or declaration, the full syntax node for the declaration. This is the actual just type of identity. And there's our identifier that we're returning from our arrow function. And that's that. So that gets us that. I think we can go ahead and add in the type parsing, and then I can call it there. So parse. Way the hell back up here. Let's start with parameters, and then we can say if parser consume e colon, then param node decl param type is hbk parse type, and we can just hbk assert that all this shit like that. And this, after we've done this, we then want to say func node decl func return type is this. So 1, it should still just work. 2, if I go back to hello Hibiku, we can annotate this with int and int. And there it is, a int, b int, a int. Cool. So git add and commit with a message. Add very simple function parsing. Blocks. So there's our arrow only stuff. It does not accept no body. If you don't provide a body, it expects it to be empty. Really, it should expect it to be a semicolon. So maybe I add that real quick to be technically correct. So then we can say if it's equal greater, else parser. Oh, it is expecting a semicolon. I'm going to say expect semicolon and expect semicolon. Right. That is more correct. The other case would be check that it's an open bracket, parse a compound expression. So let's first test that this still works. Boom, expected a semicolon. That needs to go here. See? Boom, beautiful. Otherwise, A also needs a semicolon. With a semicolon. Perfect. Git add. There we go. So the handful of things I added to the to-do already are parsing compound statements, so we can get those other kinds of function bodies in place. That'll be the big next one to do. And I think while we're here, we can also just go ahead and bonk, 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 bonk. And those are now our to-do items. So we can even remove done items from to-do. Stop. Let me type. So the next time we do Hibiku stuff, we've got these things to do, and we'll start thinking about what to do with expressions as well. If we're going the garbage collected route and we do expressions for most of our statements, we can also discuss maybe how implementing an expression loop might look. That would be funny. Generate a list that can get garbage collected. I mean, you could still manually do it, it's fine. Anyway, I'm not going to speculate on what we're going to do with that right at the moment. I'm gonna close this and close this. I don't have anything else to do. Oh, there are 3 open terminals. What? Oh, these ones, yeah. So actually cancel. I forgot. I put these over here so that I could come over to OBS, and I mean, like, you can see it on the stream. My camera goes right the fuck here. So behind my camera is just empty thing, and above it was just, well, I wanted to have the line for if I'm using my terminal, I know this is what I can. But like, it doesn't really matter that much. Like if I start doing nvim, if I do neovim stuff in here, then this makes more sense because I can leave my terminal cut off like this. Maybe it's still, I mean, like, it's the same thing as VS Code, but it's easier to set up. I do think I want to do a stream where I configure Vim slower and more methodically and with my own documentation and stuff, because every time I configure Vim, I rush through it and then I forget how to use it. And then I'm not encouraged to use Vim anymore because I forgot my configuration and I can't be asked to figure it out again. So I might spend a couple hours on stream doing a NeoVim config, and we can spend... I was going to do... I have a... If I go to my GitHub, actually... not actually, GitHub. Repositories. Somewhere in here, I have my nvim config, and by my nvim config, I mean a default fork of Kickstart that I never pushed to. I made some changes at some point on my Pop! OS install that I forgot I had a Git repository to push to. So I don't have those changes anymore. They were minor changes. So maybe we go through this and reconfigure based on Kickstart. But also, I kind of don't want to go through the effort of refactoring their init.lua to multiple files. I might use an init as reference, go through their stuff and do my own documentation in my own style for configuring nvim based on this and some other things and shit. I'll either use Lazy or there was another package manager, Packer. I think Packer is the other package manager I've seen used. I'll use either one of those, probably Lazy, just to follow this one along. But I want my own config with my own documentation that I find easier to understand. So maybe I do that on stream. If I'm feeling better in a couple hours when I'm not, like when I've had time to relax, maybe I do it later today. Maybe I do it tomorrow. Maybe I do it in a week. Who knows? But I do want to get into Vim more. And every time I try, the configuration just frustrates me because I don't remember anything. So maybe that just means I need to get better at default stock Vim motions. Because the one thing that gets me most is I want to select like blocks of text and copy things around all the time, and I'm just really bad at visual mode or selecting custom ranges with, like, I don't know, how to exit Vim. I mean, exiting Vim is the easy part. You just do that. Just colon Q. And if you've made changes, you either write them or you just fucking ignore it. Easy. Then, yes. And with, at least with NVim and probably all Vim, you just also help. Or it even just says type Q to end. Like, I mean, like, the meme is a meme for a reason. But it's unfounded in NVim. Look at this. And it's gone. Can't look at it. I clicked on it. Strange. Yeah. So maybe I do that at some point. There are a couple of other projects I also want to do that I've just been putting off in favor of basically only working on compiler projects, because all I want to do is write these projects in my own languages. But I've got like a list of projects that I want to tackle that I've like, some of them I've scaffolded out if I look here. So let's see. A brainfuck compiler for shits and giggles, some command line options libraries that I can retarget. C compiler that isn't explicitly related. Like, I want to write a C compiler in Laye or for the Laye toolchain at least. So if I don't write it in Laye, then I'll just put it in the Laye repository. If I do write it in Laye, it'll probably be a separate thing. I don't know what EC is. I don't care. I have the hair compiler just to try it out. I don't think I give a shit. Hibiku is what we're looking at. I had a test of the Hindley-Miller type system just to see if I could do that. It wasn't that bad. I don't know what Laye bug was. I don't care. If I wanted my own C standard library, I was going to put it in here, so I kind of half started that. I've got a copy of LCC for reference. Let's see, I don't think I have a lot of them scaffolded out on this machine. I thought about doing a shell in Laye. I have raylib. So yeah, I don't think I've actually created as many as I wanted. I want to write a Git implementation. If I wrote it in Laye, I'd probably call it Gitly. Like I said, I wanted a shell. I probably also want a terminal just for shits and giggles. I want to write a text editor eventually. I'd like my own version of Knob, which would probably go in LCA, honestly. Yeah, learn Go only because I want to have a similar implementation of their Go routines and channels in Laye. So I figured, hey, fuck it, maybe I should learn Go a little bit. I have not done much in Learn Go. It's basically a couple of Hello World examples off the website. I still don't know Go. Interesting. I, at one point, had a list of projects on my GitHub that I'd never updated, actually. So that was Git implementation, an HTML template engine. This would be fun to do with like an HTMX, like, or just HTMX itself. The Laye compiler, obviously. A build tool for Laye and a package manager for Laye. Those are only really going to happen when the Laye compiler is done. Operating system eventually. I would love to do my own TCG card designer and a text editor. And like some of the other things I mentioned on here aren't on this list because I haven't touched it in 6 months. If anybody knows Wine really well, actually, on the topic of the card editor that I wanted to build, I have my favorite card editor, but on whatever, either on this operating system or version of Wine or something, the rendering is fucked. If I bin MSE exe, then the repainting just doesn't fucking work. Like it's just bad. I don't know, like I've searched like on Google issues with repainting in Wine, so like you can see all the styles that are enabled here, but if I go back to cards, it stays there. The only thing that refreshes is the card name because it's the only thing that's repainted. Something's wrong. Try running with Proton. I mean, the program is fantastic. This works fine on Windows, and it actually worked like 99% fine on my version of Pop! OS I was running. But when I brought it over to Fedora, and whatever version of Wine Fedora had by default, the repaint just absolutely sucked. And I've since updated Wine to 9.1 staging, which was like the latest release as of a couple of weeks ago, and it still has this problem. I've also tried it under Win 10, Win 11, Win 7, Win 8, and Win XP compatibility modes, all with identical behavior, so it's not a compatibility per operating system. And just searching for, like, my window has trouble repainting on Google has yielded me nothing because I probably am just using the wrong keywords. And actually, while I'm here, I am curious what the fuck this style looks like. It's just called YouTube. Subscribers. Very strange. Why is that included with this release? Yeah, because it's not an error, I don't think. It's just, I mean, like, maybe. No. It also doesn't like, I had a bigger version of it that I think I've sectioned off to a different, if I just kill it and I go to, I have MSE full as well, which had more templates, and a fuck ton of these templates are broken off a default install. So if anybody knows how to configure something related to file paths, probably, because I think it's looking for a relative path that starts with a slash, which I assume is just going to start looking at the root on Linux. So I think the file path implementation here is fucked, but I don't know why. And I don't know why this didn't happen on Pop! OS either, or if it did, it was more subtle. And also, this should not be using this style. We should turn this off. So basically, whatever's going on with my wine here, fucking don't like. Cool, resave that. Clear, that's fine. Cards. File not found. Yes, yeah, so we don't use this installation. We use this one because it has no template errors. It's still just got the painting issue. Or no, like, it's usable. It's just ugly as fuck. So. I don't know what the fuck to do about it. Also, while I'm here, file question mark edit preferences. I've turned down my scaling for some of the templates. I wish I could do it on a per template basis. Maybe I do a couple. I want to branch out to not just do programming streams. Maybe I could make some cards on stream. Maybe I could try to get my music set up working through OBS and I could write music on stream. That would be cool. Actually, while I'm thinking about it, if I turn this up to like this, let's just fucking tell me how this sounds. And move this so I can still see chat and I can mess with my stuff. Oh. It's through my headphones, so I can't hear it just yet. I probably want to turn off my mic so there's no feedback. Oh, goddamn. Yeah, that sounds fine. It's not clipping or anything. So if I turn off the How do I desktop monitor off Scarlet 2i2 because I don't want to mono it, but it's OBS, so it's fine. I know you guys can't hear me. I'm talking to myself. Don't worry. I know it's mono is what I'm saying. I'm trying. Yeah, you can't see what I'm doing. I forgot in OBS here. If I did like, you can see what I'm doing now. I'm fucking with this stuff, and I don't know how to mono that shit in OBS. Mono. There it is. Aha. So now, if that should be mono. That should be mono now. We can't hear it. What? You can only hear your mic, but I muted my mic. I guess I hit the wrong button when I muted my mic, and I muted the Scarlet. So if I have both on, I'm pretty sure you'll hear me strumming and you'll get the mic input, and you'll get the slightly delayed Scarlet input. It doesn't always do it though, so maybe... Like, I don't see it coming through on the mic, but I assume it is. So, I don't know. Having to mute my mic if I wanted to play guitar on stream just kind of sounds like it sucks. I also, because I'm using my laptop here, if I fucked with the dish, I could point dish at me and I could switch to a separate full screen camera, like that, and then you could see the guitar. But also, like, oh, I think I turned off the Scarlet. Well, let's, okay, the Scarlet's back. Then I can turn this webcam off. But this is a square, and squares are ugly, but you can see the guitar at least. If it were wider, can I not, like, aspect ratio it? Maybe this should be a separate stream, because now we're just, like, fucking. But hey, we're chilling. I don't know why it's square. Can I settings it? Settings. Webcam format, resolution. Can I set it to 1920 and have it? I can, but it looks fucked. What the fuck? Resolution, if I do 1280-720? 1280-720 looks less fucked, but still fucked. If I leave unchanged, does it go back? That didn't get applied. Well, now it just is fucked, period. Use buffering, frames until timeout, brightness, contrast, saturation, gain, sharpness, backlight, blah, 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 blah. This, all of a sudden, sucks. HD webcam, I do a video format. I don't know what these video formats mean. Frame rate, 60. Okay. That's not 60, though. What about... Does it like 30? No, it's still fucked. 60 frames, not 1920, 1080. Like, it's updating, but now I'm at like 2 frames a second. Does it look like 2 frames a second on stream? Because it looks like 2 frames a second on OBS. Yep. What the fuck? Let me go back to 3 FPS. Oh, that's better than 2. That's better than 2. But like, even if I go back to the default values now, it just still looks like shit. If I turn it off and back to this one, it's fine. This one, still shit. What about the IR camera? Oh, hello, strobe. Now that I've switched cameras, it looks like it's fine again? Okay. So now you can see the guitar if I were to... Luna from Hell of a Bus. I need to turn this way. The camera's this one, not that one. Luna from Hell of a Bus. It's Loona. I wish I had a longer pinky. My pinky is so short. I should do a Foo Fighters Foo Fighters cover of Everlong. That'd be fun. I have Spotify open. Would that come through my desktop audio? Hold on. There's a song that I love playing along to. I'm just curious, like if this is set up to the point where I could just jam, that would be fantastic. So I was looking for Alone by... Why do I forget their name? Alone. My First Story. That's what I'm looking for. Pull that over here. And if I do this and turn it down just a touch, that should be coming through desktop audio. It's not the loudest right now, so I can't exactly balance it. It's at negative 25. And why is the Scarlet... Why is the Scarlet picking up? Whenever I talk here, I'm hearing it through the Scarlet too, or at least I'm seeing it through the Scarlet. Let me mute my mic again. So, yeah, every time I talk. But it sounds like I'm louder than it. I don't know if the balance is just me. I feel like I'm louder than the song by a lot. My arms hurt when I do this. I'm not in practice right now. So my mic peaks at negative 8 usually, negative 13 to negative 8. The Scarlet's still, hold on, let me full screen. So the Scarlet here, whenever I talk, the only thing that's plugged into the Scarlet is the guitar. But whenever I talk, it's peaking here too. Pause this dumbass shit. So I don't need code open again. Your voice is louder than the guitar. Yes, my voice is louder than the guitar by like a bit. So maybe if I did this. Then it'd be roughly equal volume. And that might be better. I probably still wanted a touch lower than my voice. The question I had is the desktop audio good? I put this down a little bit, and I don't need this anymore, because, let me play it again. Because I can only see two at the same time. I should probably just make this bigger so I can see all three here. So it's going at negative 20. I don't remember how to play that part. How do I play that? It's been like a year since I learned this song. something like that. I don't know. I love the beginning though with the fucking like. Let me get the camera back on now that I'm done fucking with it. If the music is louder than the guitar, let me know. I want to be able to hear the music under the guitar if I'm going to do a jam sesh. Camera. I need to have hotkeys for this. So that part there though. Fuck. I haven't played in so long. I'll do that again. Back the fuck up. We're not programming anymore. I'm so out of practice. And that's a octave. So. And then it's got like the fucking. We're back in the high registers, and I don't know where they are. I should probably, like, if I'm gonna keep doing this, I should change the name. There. So if that sounds good, I might be able to do music is louder, but we can hear both. Only, okay. So I would probably want to, like this sounds good for me, so I probably want to turn this down just a touch more. I want like something. Problem with jamming right now is I'm in drop C sharp, which not a lot of songs are in. I know like one Avenged Sevenfold song in drop C sharp, and I don't think it's. I'm pretty sure that's in regular drop D. And I'm just in flat S. That sounds flat, but now I'm curious. That's fucking Afterlife Avenged Sevenfold. Is it in drop C sharp? I don't know the solo a little bit. Yeah, no, I'm flat. What about Afterlife? I don't know why I just said what about Afterlife. I meant what about something else, but clicked Afterlife. I wanted Beast and the Harlot. Beast and the Harlot, or Almost Easy. One of those two might be in drop C sharp. So let's see. No, that's still in B. Almost Easy. That might be C sharp. Almost Easy is in drop C sharp. That's in C sharp for sure. They've also got those fucking... I've never learned the harmonies where it's like... somewhere up there. Somewhere up there. That's curious. Yeah, I'll probably just end stream here, then I'll figure some more of this stuff out afterward. I might do music streams. This is not like, I mean, it's been branded as a programming channel, but it's not like, I'm the code report, and I only talk about code. So I might do some streams of music in the future, if anybody cares. If nobody cares, fuck it, I'll just do it on my own and I'll post it. It's fine. If I do music, it's going to... I've already got some... I don't have the shortcut for it anymore. Fuck. I was going to pull it up and switch the camera, but I was going to use Bitwig Studio. I've got a drum kit, so I can program drums and play along to them. Yeah. Yeah, I'll fuck with that later. Let me not get tangled up in wires. Headset off. Cable moved. Guitar down, making noise, turn it all the way down again. Now you can't hear the guitar, move the guitar cables. Alright. Well, thanks for watching and sticking around for the jam. Trying to get my head on after being tired as shit. Don't forget... Oh, you pinged it, okay. Don't forget there's a link to the Discord if you want to actually keep talking about development and stuff. Guess who just discovered that you have to add a movement speed in Unity? I don't know exactly what you're referring to, but yes. I do post about music every now and then. Nobody else has joined in yet, really. He's asked about genre or artist. That's about it. Go shitpost. Go talk off topic. Go talk linguistics, so I'm not the only one half posting. Fun, there's smart people in here. It's in the description. If you want to see the source code to Hibiku, that's in the description. You can go in the description. Boom, boom, boom. That's Hibiku. The Discord is here. The other compiler I work on is Laye. That's in here as well. I have a Patreon, but I have no idea what to do with it yet, so it's just kind of there with a really cheap tier. That's about it. Thanks for stopping by. I want to go to either jam or take a nap. Goodbye. Where's the stop?